things started first. Get the stream fired up. And we're green, so that's a good sign. We'll get the word out. Give me just a moment, y'all. We are gonna get the word out on both Spoutable and Post, my only two social media apps right now. I know some people still go, well, Tim, don't you have the artist formerly known as Twitter account? Yeah, that's just gonna sit dormant. I am only on Posted Spoutable right now. I might have accounts on Mastodon, but I don't remember to log into that, so I don't really consider that. The only other place you may see me post from time to time, and I keep forgetting the name of it, but it's where I post artwork sometimes. Honestly speaking, though, if you want to see any social media, any updates on the book or future stories, Post or Spoutable are my two hubs, especially Spoutable. But welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I am your host, Kalari GXC, and like I said on Tuesday, I will be doing more of a continuance of some of the topics that I touched upon on Tuesday, but we have a lot to talk about, and we are opening up with yet again Def Santis being a dumbass doofus. I don't understand this man. I get that he thinks that because he's running for president, he can get away with doing his state dirty. But this latest DeSantis blunder has me wondering who is trying to keep this man in power at this point? Because he is literally hurting your state with his idiocy. When I read this article earlier, it just flabbergasted me, but it gave me perfect tying to tonight's topic title, which is the high cost of hate. Welcome to the chat, Beans. I'm just pretty sure at this point that if he's not a foreign based plant, that there are just people completely stupid backing this man because he turned down a $350 million credit that could help Floridians. And not just help Floridians in certain sect, but help Floridians of all walks of life for environmental upgrades. Because last I checked, they just had a devastating Category 3 hurricane, for cleaner energy, for stuff that a lot of people here in Michigan are taking full advantage of because we like our energy clean. We like getting kickbacks and rebates. We don't have a governor here in Michigan that takes $350 million and says, now wipe my ass with it. This is the same fool that took millions of dollars from insurance agencies so that they couldn't get sued and that did Floridians dirty. How much more does Ron DeSantis have to do to your state? His fight with Disney has cost you money. He told immigrants that owning land and property there isn't feasible, thus costing you that revenue too. He is bad for business. What I don't understand about the supposed war and appeal of Ron DeSantis is the hubris of some of these people. The fact that he still thinks he has a fighting chance of being president after shit like this alone could be an ad. Ron DeSantis had the opportunity to help his fellow Floridian constituents with clean energy and savings that would take the crunch off of them, and he said no. Is that the kind of man you want running the entire United States? Seriously, I don't understand. There's no appeal to this man. He is not a leader, yet people act like he is on par and a serious candidate. And let me make sure, because it's going red again, that I am still live. My internet is still connected, so let me know if it's doing that weird blue flash. I'm also recording it so I can get it uploaded to YouTube just in case. And it's, you're right, Beans. They did the same thing with Donald Trump. They elevated this goofy ass domestic terrorist to a position of power after one of the best presidents in our history, Barack Obama. I know that his black excellence, his family, his whole demeanor made a lot of racist people mad. But it's like we shook out a hornet's nest of just unimaginable ignorance and hate. One of the things I was reading earlier today, because you know me, I'm on Spoutable off and on, even while I'm trying to write this next book. And somebody posted a vlog by Steve Smith. And I know that those of you who aren't in the political circles might not know that name right off the bat. He's one of those Lincoln Project dudes. I knew him for years because I would watch him get all red faced in interviews with people on CNN and MSNBC. And then when he started to be the group that was going to take down Trump, I was like, okay, but I'm still side eyeing you because your party is still not doing right by our nation. You just want palatable power. But people got mad at me because they're like, the Lincoln Project are the enemy of your enemy. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to stop you right there. So I still, to this day, don't trust Steve Smith. And when somebody was linking a blog of his, I responded in turn that it's funny how everybody keeps trying to normalize these Lincoln Project guys. I get it. You want to believe in the people that see right, that have their come to Jesus moment, that open their eyes to the fact that the conservative party is neither conservative or a party that works for all of us. But he is not changing his tune. And I read that entire blog post where he's going through North Dakota and he met up with this guy in a small town that in 2023 is in full MAGA regalia with Trump 2024 banners and everything, and how the guy sassed him for being from California. And Steve was like, look dude, he gave a Lincoln quote to the guy, and I don't care about Lincoln. As somebody who actually studied this country's history, he's not the hero some people make him out to be. And I know, 10, imagine emancipation. He did not want to free us. And I think people who actually got taught real history would understand that. He had to, because the nation was being divided over the Confederate wants. But he wanted to try to find a way to mitigate the situation and not lose this country's source of revenue. And that's the shit they don't want to teach. That's the shit that Ron DeSantis calls woke at CRT. But getting back to Steve Smith's blog and why it infuriated me and why it speaks to the point of tonight's topic about hate having a high cost. He tried to, in this blog post, show that this MAGA guy, despite downplaying him at first for being California and being one in Lincoln Parks, was still civil. And I was like, why did he need to write this? What was the point of him ignoring the fact that this man is fully indoctrinated in a hate cult, fully steeped in the toxic culture of white supremacy, and still backing a literal domestic terrorist? What is it about guys like Steve Smith, who in one breath is trying to convince the rest of us that he's anti-Trump, that he's for democracy, but still, right in a blog post where he's trying to humanize somebody who is fully indoctrinated in this hate death cult of Donald Trump? And it's because this is all they do. This certain non-melanated demographic who keeps trying to tell us that they're our allies, that they're on the same page, that they want to sit by us in unison and harmony and go into the future. And one breath is still trying to tell us, oh, but have compassion and humanity for these people that literally hate you for the things that you cannot and should not want to change about yourself. And it's infuriating in the wake of everything that went on this week. Now I was going to bring in the UNC shooting because I thought it was in the same vein as everything else that went on this week, and it's not. Even though I could go on a tangent about the weird rise of Chinese American males doing this shit, and I will probably save that more for Tuesday because it isn't in the same vein as the rest of this shit. Let me get this up on Spoutable. Not her picture yet, because trust me, there's a lot to talk about in this, including what went on with the Proud Boys too. But you see the face of this cat, and what's infuriating about him to me is that right after what I talked about on Tuesday, that horrific Jacksonville dollar store shooting, you have this crappy guy trying to shoot up a church. Any of you who remember the Emmanuel shooting in South Carolina with Dylan Roof knows how hard it is for us, how scary it is to go to a place of worship, a place where you should feel peace and solace, a place where you should be whole and have to worry about little walking thumbs like this coming in and shooting us up. Fortunately, he was stopped. Now, let me see if I can pull this up, because thank God for Bravery Doll and other people on Spoutable that keep stuff like this relevant, because our news cycle doesn't seem to want to do anything about this story. But this idiot was armed with a shotgun and prevented entry from a predominantly black Pennsylvania church, thus thwarting a racially motivated mass shooting, which would have been the third in less than the 2 years. Because need I remind you, last year we had Tops, where that young man threw his fucking life away, got life in prison this year for it. But last year, in this podunk town of his, decided, I hate black people. I've never even been around black people. The people bullying me looks like me. But I am going to take that rage that I feel being in this rural rut and put it on people that I don't know. I would never get to know, but I hate because somebody on 4chan told me that I'm an edgelord kingpin for hating on black people. He threw his whole life away like Dylan Roof did at the Emmanuel Church. And he wasn't the only one. Just 3 days ago, this 21-year-old idiot who had a manifesto, because they always have manifestos, yet you don't put them on lists. You don't watch over them. You don't say shit to them about their idiots and arrogance. Took 3 innocent lives of people just shopping at a Dollar Tree in Jacksonville. It's insidious. And we cannot afford to keep ignoring these issues. How many more lives, innocent lives, have to be lost to this level of hate and ignorance? Churchgoers go to church, and this isn't the first church that's been targeted by hate. Back in the 60s especially, church fires, church bombings especially happened. Doug Jones, former senator in Alabama, I believe it was, that replaced him with a little cartoon character in Tuberville, was one of the prosecutors who got a Ku Klux Klan member who murdered 4 black babies in a church bombing. This isn't new. This isn't out of some playbook that they just made up from the air. This has been systemic terrorism in our neighborhoods and communities for centuries now. And I'm sick and tired of acting like this is brand new. I'm sick and tired of acting like there's a generation that could die off and make it better for us, because it's not happening. And it's not happening because we're still being polite to these fuckers. We're still ignoring the red and all kind of color flags that these idiots give off. We're still acting like if we just act polite enough or ingratiate ourselves enough, if we act civil enough around them, that they will accept us. And we have got to stop that. Welcome to the chat, Respect. And if I didn't say it earlier, welcome to the chat again, Beans. I get upset behind this because so many people want to sit with us at the anti-racism, anti-bigotry table. They want to proclaim loudly that they're our allies, but they don't want to do the painful, uncomfortable work in accepting that this path means you have to shed a lot about yourself that you think people don't see. One of the things I tell people all the time in my anti-racism journey personally is that I am still a work in progress and unlearning a lot of toxic negativity, and a lot of the calls came from within my own community. I had to shed a lot of anti-blackness from my own growing up in one of probably the racist boroughs in New York, being in an area that was predominantly black in some spots, but not black in others, going to schools where there were kids that looked like me, and then going to high school where there were barely kids that looked like me. Having to learn early on how to code switch and try to be acceptable, being a black friend. And even now in my life, I have started really unpacking why I was trying so hard to feel accepted by people that, honestly speaking, it shouldn't matter. But that is how society fucking melds our minds to this nonsense. Tells us if you just act palatable enough, if you straighten your hair, if you do things a certain way, they'll accept you. That's why we have so many of these bigotry shields out there. People of color that know it's lucrative for them to tout these racist talking points. And those of us who really want to walk this path of not only wokeness, but anti-racism and anti-bigotry in the whole, we have to admit some of the stupid shit that we did, whether it was when we were younger. Because anybody over the age of 40 knows that life was way different for us than most people. There were things that were acceptable back in the day that we know are not acceptable now. But if we don't admit to our part in this stuff, we are not ready for the path of anti-hate that we need to be on. Being defiantly decent is hard because you're not going to get it 100% right. But there are way too many people that want to do it for a pat on the head and a cookie without actually putting in the physical and mental work that it's going to be needed to really be a better person in this day and age. There are way too many people that think they can fake it as well. And they're very loud. They're on sites like Spoutable, just saying awful shit and thinking that, well, I'm an ally, so you can't hold me accountable. I don't shake the boat at anybody who I see messing up. I'm a good person, though. I'm a good person that I don't see my whiteness as a thing. So I always thought because I'm like that, everybody's like that. And it's like, you know what? I used to believe that people that naive really existed. But no, y'all are playing the game. And you don't want us to call out that you're playing the game. Because hurting your feelings is the worst thing in the world for some of you. But until you are ready to honestly admit that you had the luxury of not utilizing your whiteness unless it was to your benefit, until you understand that your benefit never ran out, no matter how much you tried to distance yourself. And nobody was really asking you to distance yourself. We're just asking you not to use it as a way to hold the rest of us down and away from stuff. One of the things that I said in the point back to a friend, because I wanted my friend to realize I wasn't attacking them. I get where they were trying to go with that idea that their whiteness never seemed like a thing to them. The luxury of not having your skin tone be a big deal is something that I will never know or understand. But the whole idea that we didn't know how bad it was is a lie. Everything from eugenics, which is holding us back both scientifically and socially, to just the way the laws are codified. This man was taken in alive when he was literally there to commit a mass shooting. Yet this young lady, let me get her picture up because it's heartbreaking to me. Takia, I get that being in a car can be considered a deadly weapon. And I'm not even going to justify the fact that she tried to drive off. But the fact that our cops are not trained to just get out of the way and let a thief suspect, an alleged thief suspect, because they didn't even prove that she stole anything, and she was fucking pregnant. And like many black people, we don't really like or feel safe around people in a fucking badge and police uniform, especially after the last few years. So she did what a lot of us who see a badge and a uniform do. Tensed up, probably slipped up and tried to drive off and get away from a bad situation to protect herself and her unborn child, and she got shot for it. And they tried to say, well, she hit the cop with the car. And I watched that video. He was on the side of the car. He could have let go of the door and he could have let her drive off. They already had her information. They treat us with so much force, So much excessive force for a black body than they do with somebody who literally went to a church to commit mass murder. And need I remind you that Dylan Roof, the motherfucker who did murder 9 people at the Emmanuel Church in South Carolina years ago, got taken to McDonald's by these fuckers. So it's real funny to me, the levels that they have with policing. How certain people can be taken in alive and safe, even though they are definite threats and dangers to the community and beyond. But be a pregnant black woman. Be a black child in a hoodie. Be a black child walking home like Elijah McCain. Minding his own business, just wanted to get home. And you risk losing your life. The cost of hate is too high, y'all. The cost of hate is taking lives that should still be here. It wasn't just Takia's life. Her unborn daughter is not in this world now, too. And the cop gets to be on administrative leave, and then they'll just go, well, she tried to hit him with the car. It wasn't a thought of, why did she panic? Why was she fearful for her life in the same state that took Tamir Rice's life? In the same nation where we have to beg you for our lives to matter, and we get met with that. No, it's woke. It's CRT. It's infuriating to me that people can't see the juxtaposition of this young lady whose only potential crime was maybe stealing retail death. Shouldn't have costed her her life. And everybody, she should have complied. She could have still died from that. And I don't think people who say she should have complied understand that point. There have been plenty of black women who have lost their lives to police brutality, and she was pregnant. Her mind was probably racing where I have got to get out of here and save myself and my baby. No charge is worth dying for. And she still lost her life because these goons with fucking badges shoot first and think later. And I'm saying the word think very lightly, because people like that aren't known for the critical thinking skills. And I don't care if you think I'm knocking the blue. At this point, when we are legally allowing these people to lynch us, I have no kind words for them. I have nothing left but contempt for people who are trained less than literal hair beauticians and how to handle people in their own society. It makes absolutely no sense to me, the people who justify cops who should be trained to de-escalate tension in situations, yet do shit like this. You just have all the compassion like Steve Schmidt had for that MAGA hat wearer, but nothing for these young mothers and young brothers out there just trying to exist in their country while black. The high cost of hate, y'all, is exhausting. And it shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be me talking about a 21-year-old. She was looking forward to motherhood. And now her family is begging for justice that may not come because they're already trying to justify using that video, which anybody watching that video, and I don't recommend it. That's why I didn't want to put it on here. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking seeing yet another Black Lives snuffed out, seeing their last moments. I've seen way too much. That's why I'm not on the artist formerly known as Twitter anymore, because that was a constant state of trauma for me. People sharing those videos of people's last moments. Our humanity is always up for debate, and it's exhausting. And I just want it to stop. I want to stop adding names to the constantly growing list of lives that should still be here. And I can't, because I'm still fighting with people who don't even want to recognize that there's a problem within their demographic. They want to act like individuals when it's convenient. And those that want to group up, as I said on Tuesday, can't be reached because they group up to be hateful. They group up to support domestic terrorism. They grew up. There was an article earlier that said that there's a rampant growth of threatening poll workers, threatening people who just want to have our election process be speedy and convenient. Domestic terrorism has been a constant in our country, but it has been one demographic that has benefited greatly from it, and they have been utilizing it along with degrading things like our education system, degrading any kind of equality between the genders and people who are transgender. They want us divided and easily conquered. And this is why I tell people that the path of anti-racism that comes from working on yourself, that comes from shedding the toxic binding of hate, but it is not an easy process. And there are way too many of you that go, well, I say BLM. I don't actually do anything to learn about the culture or get to know black people, but I'm online saying BLM, so isn't that enough? I haven't changed any of the stereotypes I believe about certain people and cultures. I don't really want to do any actual work on myself, but I said the word BLM. That should be enough. One of the things I seen on Spoutable earlier, and I was trying to remember that cat's name that I ended up getting into a fight with on Twitter. And luckily for me, there are Bernie bots already on Spoutable, making John Cusack's name trend. And thank you for helping me remember that fucker's name, because I wouldn't have on my own, because he hasn't been relevant in years outside his weirdo far left political beliefs. And no, I am not far left. I keep telling people I am a Democrat and a pragmatist, but some of you still don't know. So I gotta remind you, every Bonnet Chronicles. So I do get into several tussles with Bernie brats. A lot. Whether it's cheese or any of these weirdo wannabe socialists that don't even understand the concept of socialism. These people who read Trotsky and think that they know everything about how to create a utilitarian utopia without understanding the fundamentals of such a society would come with a lot of pain for those that are considered in the bottom or the dregs of such societies. It would not work in our melting pot. It couldn't. Because you still got people that want to get paid for the labor they do. They're not just going to accept that, oh, we'll build up and you'll get it trickle down. That's not going to work for us. But you tell these people that, and they don't want to hear it because they're not, no, I found lucricity telling people that they can get free stuff if they listen to us and support Bernie Sanders. So John Cusack trending made me laugh on Spoutable because he was one of the first famous, and I'm using that in quotation, people that I literally got into, and then he went kind of crazy and I blocked him because I was like, I'm not dealing with you, dude. You are unhinged. And I hope that this person isn't him, but I have a weird feeling that the person trying to make John Cusack trend is actually John Cusack. And that's kind of sad, but also kind of funny. That's what we're up against. Delusional people who don't understand the system, don't understand the system they want to try to replace the system with, and think that a burn it down mentality is better than working with what we got and making it better. These people don't want to do the work. The people are afraid to do the work. And it's not about lazy. It's about being literally adult brain for the last 50 plus years. Having the moral majority dictate how we learn, when we learn, turning our tests, our schools into test-taking facilities instead of places of learning, because they knew kids that were fostered in healthy learning environments grew to be people who thought about others, who actually looked beyond themselves and other communities. And you can't have that in an authoritarian state. So you restrict their growth. You restrict access to things like music and arts and fun stuff that kids would want to go to classes for. You make it where they have to focus on tests and numbers and figures, like that idiot school in Flagler did to those babies. And I talked about it on Tuesday. But I'm not going to stop bringing up the fact that they segregated black students when only 32% by their own calculations were in the red zone for their testing. And they didn't think, hey, maybe we as teachers should up our game and teach these babies better. No, they decided that we're going to take the black students and make them feel awful, make them feel separated and shunned for something about themselves that they cannot and should not want to change. Welcome to the United States of America, which is anything but united, full of people who are so steeped in holding control, holding that tiny little bit of illusionary power over being the top dog demographic, that they are willing for all of us to go down in flame. That's the power of hatred. They don't care if they get hurt in the wayside too, as long as they're able to feel better than the rest of us. And that is the danger of bigotry. I called it benign and malignant bigotry on Tuesday, but honestly, it all ties in. Hatred of anybody that you don't know or understand, that hasn't given you a direct reason to hate them, is a toxic mental issue. And it is something that you need help with. Whether you want to see it or not, it is not rational for you to look at somebody's skin tone, their culture, because it's different from yours, the way they worship or choose not to, their gender identity or sexual orientation, and automatically hate them because you think you have a moral right to do it. That is not faith or spirituality. That is your bigotry. And it is very detrimental to our society. But there have been enough of you that have congregated, enough of you that have profited off of it, and that is why we cannot get rid of it, because there are so many of you that think, well, I don't wear a sheet or a tiki torch. I don't call people the N-word to their face. I might snicker here or there at a stereotypical joke. I might even think the LGBTQ are people slated for the bad place in the afterlife. But I'm still a good person, right, Tin? No, you're not. Because you base your moral leanings off making other people feel bad and other. And I'm sorry, spiritually good people are good with understanding that what works for them doesn't work for everybody else. And that there shouldn't be a place in the afterlife where you can exclude others. You're already doing that in this life. So how are you going to wholesale people on a eternity with you like that? That's gross. I don't want that. I don't think anybody with a brain in their head would sign up for something like that. Yet this is the stuff that these people keep trying to wholesale shovel down our throats. And I want you to understand that there are way too many of us, and we're raising our kids to understand that we don't have to accept this anymore. It's not on us to change you, though. And I think that's one of the things that I've had to keep instilling in anybody, because people approach me. They know Tin is no nonsense when it comes to the anti-racism thing. So I tell friends who try to recommend white people to me, I am not an intermediate or new level type. If you come to me, you should know your stuff already, because I'm done. Maybe 10 years ago, I was more patient when new to the journey people. I'm not anymore. Not after George Floyd, not after Breonna Taylor, not after Elijah McCain, not after so many names that I would lose fucking track trying to keep track of all of them. I don't have patience to handhold those of you who are still baby stepping your way towards anti-racism. I am not a beginner level type. So if you come to me and waste my time, I'm going to tell you you're wasting my time. I know I feel angry now, but I have the right to be angry after this. I have the right to be angry every time I see a young black mother whose life is snuffed out. If not by this, but by the fact that infant mortality rates for us are still at an all-time high. At the fact that health and taking care of our health comes at the risk of being disrespected, dehumanized, and not listened to by our own doctors. It is troublesome navigating our own systemic oppression. So I don't have the energy to deal with people who are intermediate or beginner in anti-racism anymore. You're either at my level or you're wasting my time. And if you don't like it, tough. I am tired, y'all. And I don't think anybody, my friends, understand that. But there are way too many people that see me on social media and think, oh, well, she tells it like it is, but she's got to be approachable, and I'm not. And I'm not going to pretend to be anymore. Because that 10, all that goodwill was eroded by the 2016 election. All that goodwill was sapped away. 4 years of surviving 45. 4 years of burying family and friends. And then you're threatening us with a repeat of him like he's a serious contender. So no, I don't have it in me to handhold, coddle, or baby step anybody new on the journey. But I will applaud you for trying to take the step. What I'm going to tell you, though, is that you cannot put upon black women, especially, to guide you through this anymore. I know some of you look at us, and one of the people I follow who I think is near and dear. Let me see if I can get her spout up because I really like this spout. And I agree somewhat, but as a black woman, I am so just tired of having to repeat this. And I know she's tired of having to repeat this. We're all kind of on the same page of being tired of having to repeat this stuff. Let me see if I can pull it up because I didn't go too far down. And I didn't post a lot today because I've been writing a new book, y'all. And it is just, there we go, Muriel. She is an amazing writer. And she said it. Are you invested? Are you truly invested? Can you consider yourself an ally? Or did you just sashay in here thinking that you'll be the guide and the teachers? Let's see. Or thinking that you had the solution to something we hadn't thought of before. Before you consider yourself an ally, consider this. Let me make sure I'm reading this properly. Let me try to make this bigger because I am granny squinting at this point. There we go. Because this is so true. And I want her words completely read, word for word. Have you done your own research? Read books by black authors? Followed commentators on black media? Listen to prominent black voices? Because this isn't a no pet project to be done on dateless nights, searching for something to do because you're bored and feeling blue. Have you done the homework? Found out where the cracks are at, rooted inside yourself, like I said earlier. All of those inbred biases. This isn't no home hobby to do on some rainy day or some self-pity guilt trip to massage your own conscience. Do you have a thought out plan? Figure out how you can help besides chanting now and then on the occasional protest march. This isn't an extracurricular activity to pad your resume or some ego aggrandizing scheme to tap yourself on the back. I couldn't have said it better myself, but this is everything that you have said, respect, Beans, I have said several times. We want people to be better. But some of you think that this is just a part-time gig that you can say certain nice things to us, but then also uplift your Proud Boy relatives, your MAGA hat parents. And we can't trust you. If you are still in one breath trying to tell us that you believe in Black Lives Matter, but you won't confront the inner racism and bigotry you have and the people in your communities because you fear losing that social currency. I mentioned it on Tuesday and I will mention it again. I get it. It's a three-pronged assault for some of you to not push against your demographic. You don't want to lose face. You definitely don't want to lose reputation. And that fear that how can I survive if I don't have the comforts of my privilege? When you have all three of that looming over you, it's no wonder it's harder to get white people to see the problem of white supremacy. To understand that the issue is too many of y'all don't treat this as shameful. The too many of you think just saying you're allies without doing the interpersonal work on yourselves does nothing to help the cause. I know it's hard. I'm not going to act like it's easy to do any of this. But some of yous want to convince us. Some of yous want to play in our very faces and act like yous are our allies in one breath and then ignore all the issues that are literally snuffing our lives out. Ignore the fact that there are people that look like you right now threatening poll workers, threatening the rest of us with another Trump presidency because they can't stop being loyal to their hate cult. Even though that hate cult literally destroyed them with a preventable pandemic. Even though that man in 4 years barely ingratiated the lot of them. It's a sickness. And it's a sickness that we, the people that you think should woke whisper you out of stuff, we can't help you unless you want to help yourself. That is why I said, instead of coming to black women like me and asking me what to do the research. We are in a high-tech digital society right now. Able to create lives, write, do amazing things with digital tech. The information you're looking for is at your fingertip. Some of you just don't want to look it up. Some of you think you need to be constantly told by a black person where to look instead of looking yourself. And if you can't even take that much of an initiative, why should we believe you that you're on the same page as us? I never had to have a non-black person tell me about white people's history or any other history that I was interested in. I've always gone out and sought it myself. Because when you're interested, truly interested and invested in learning about people, so that A, you don't offend, B, you understand things. That's why I don't weigh in heavily on a lot of geopolitics. Because not only is it dangerous to do that depending on the situation, but I do not want to come across as insensitive. Because some people think, oh, it's just a black and white issue. These people bad, these people good, and it really isn't. But I take the time to learn about what I'm investing myself in. That's why I know when to speak and when to just listen. That's what being an ally means. Knowing when to insert myself and when to let somebody else have the microphone because it is their story to be shared. And it is my place to listen, to lend a shoulder, and to not overspeak over them because I cannot take over, as Muriel said. When I think about my friends and family who are LGBTQ, I realize that being a cis straight woman, the only thing I can do for them, besides being a voice, besides using my mediums like my writing and stuff to highlight their humanity, is to listen when they speak. To understand that I can show empathy, but I can never know what they went through. And it is the same for you who aren't black. I want you to have empathy for us. I want you to see us as the humans we are too. But I want you to understand that no matter how much empathy you feel, you will never understand what this has been like for us. And we want to work where less of us knows what this feels like. Less of us know what our babies feel like to be segregated by their schools and told that they're going to go to jail or die for fucking test scores. Less of us having to worry about our freaking kids going just to the store and walking home at night and being gunned down by the people who are supposed to be protecting and serving them. Or being a pregnant mom, scared for their lives, trying to drive away and ending up dead. We're tired. And some of you still look at our tired, weary faces, our run down spirit and say, we need you to help us. We need you to help guide us because we don't understand stuff. We've had the luxury of not having to understand the deepness and the darkness of the racism and bigotry and sexism that a lot of you have had to experience. But we want to know, isn't that enough? Isn't putting out there that we see the problem enough? And it's not. I wish it could be. In the perfect world, you just making a bare minimum effort, it would be fine. But we're not in the perfect world. We're in a world where a beautiful soul like Elijah McCain, whose whole spirit was taking care of animals, playing violin for cats, just being a sweet boy, is snuffed out. Yet that guy who literally went to a church to commit mass murder is taken in alive. The cops know when certain people are violent. They know when certain people are dangerous. And unless they take themselves out like the Jacksonville shooter, they are often afforded due process of the law. Yet to be young and black in your own country could be a death sentence from the people who are supposed to treat you like an equal citizen from the law. It's scary that I even in 2023 have to keep reminding people of this. I have to keep pressing back against the anti-woke types that think that, oh, it's just about people wanting to be lawless. No, we want to be citizens that are treated as fairly under the same law as every other citizen. And if I have to be honest, there is no other demographic that has earned that right beyond black people. And this is not to say, oh, Asian Americans or any other immigrant Americans don't deserve rights and everything. But no other demographic is this socially accepted, disrespected. And what trips me out and bugs me is how many people still profit off of our talent, off of our insight, off of our inventions. One of the things I was going to bring up earlier about schooling, especially, is how even in a more integrated school system in New York, our Black History Months were bare bones because it wasn't black people teaching it to us. I can name on one hand how many black teachers I had on Staten Island, and it was fucking one. One black teacher in K through 12. We had black principals, but the level of people who taught me growing up, especially, did not look like me. So Black History Month was bare bones. I learned more about the I Have a Dream speech because we heard it over and over and over again than I learned anything about Black history. It wasn't until I left formal school that I got to learn more about Black history, about the inventions that some of you take for granted and give credit to white guys that had nothing to do with their patents. Half the stuff that you really thought was a white invention was invented by either a black man or a black woman. But they don't get to teach that because people, oh no, that hurts our feelings. CRT, woke. It's shameful because my people have contributed so much good to this country, and not just the good that was forced upon our ancestors. We have provided so many strides, and we could be doing so much more. But you would rather redline, redistrict our neighborhoods, put us in peril, just doing natural things like shopping, going to church, and living our black lives. It is constant mental torture to exist in our own country, and it's not fair. And I just want people who say they're with us, who swear that their eyes are wide open to understand that saying it isn't enough anymore. You have to constantly be working on yourself. You have to constantly be shedding and admitting to some of the darker things you've done. One of the things that I had to quantify and rectify in my current relationship, because I am completely in love with my partner. I feel like I have finally found somebody who I can be my unapologetic self about. But as everybody knows, he is not the same ethnicity as me. And for the longest time, I had to, because I was unpacking a lot of anti blackness, ask myself, did I fall in love with this person to be adjacent enough and feel safe? And when I started to really talk to therapists and stuff about that and understand that I fell in love with him before we even really knew what each other looked like. We were able to talk to each other, and we still are able to talk to each other openly and frankly about everything. And that's the kind of relationship everybody should be pushing for. But I had to be honest that a lot of times, especially after high school and what happened to me when I was 14, I stopped trusting black men for a long time after that. And I had to get a lot of that worked through in therapy. because I was blaming their entire demographic for my attack, which I shouldn't have, but I was a child. So there was a lot that I am still processing and unpacking, and I am honest about that because you cannot go on this journey of anti hate without being open and honest about that stuff. And there are way too many people that don't get it. They swear up and down that you can just believe me. I say that I'm on this journey, but I've never done anything wrong. I've never laughed at a bad joke. I've never stereotyped anybody. I've never thought of hateful things about anybody, and that's a fucking lie. And if you're going to lie to yourself, you will lie to the rest of us. This journey is not easy. It's not going to be without pain. It's not going to be without you trusting yourself and stumbling, but it will free you once you realize that you do not have to be held by the things you did in your past. You do not have to worry if you are being genuine, who you will convince, because the person you need to convince is the person you stare at in the mirror every morning. Yeah, it's nice to have a community around you that believes in you, and eventually that does come too. But if you are not genuine in your steps and your situation on this path of anti-racism, to the point where the other side is totally gonna hate your guts no matter what. Looking at that one lady, and I'm blanking on her name, but she did a lot of series about showing white people the unfairness of bigotry, and people curse her name because of how effective she is with her classes. And she's been problematic too, but she said, I am not in here to be put on a pedestal. I am not a saint. She's never tried to come across as an unproblematic white woman, but she does enjoy showing other white people the fallacies of their bigotry. I believe her name is Jane. I do believe I named one of my characters kind of after her too. One of the things I think people need to understand about me is I didn't become an open book overnight. Like everybody else in this society, especially being a woman and growing up, I was taught all the things of keep yourself low, be smart, but don't show people you're smart. Try to show people that you're not that scary black stereotype. They kept trying to teach us how to minimize ourselves. And it wasn't until I got to my 40s that I realized that I can't live like that. It is destroying my soul, and I don't want to live like that. But it took years of me realizing that I don't have to live like that. And so many of us don't get that. So many of us don't get lucky enough to live this long to get to that point. And I want to see more, especially younger black people, realize the freeing aspects. Unfortunately, we have way too many that are being lured away by the lucrativity of, well, if I say free stuff, maybe I'll get free stuff. Or if I put on a MAGA hat, these people come out of pocket. So it's still a bought and paid for society. And I need more young black people to understand that it's not worth the cost of your soul. It really isn't. It's not even a sunken place thing. They will use you up and spit you out. They don't even care if you're really functioning. Look at what they did to Herschel Walker. That man really needed to be in a nursing home. He is literally a walking CTE victim. And I'm not saying that to make light of him. You listen to him talk. He should not have been put on a campaign trail. But that is the kind. They would weaken and Bernie's a black body if they thought they could win. That's how scary, sick the GOP has become with this. And that is why I am asking y'all who see the issues to not only keep your eyes open, but to work on yourself. Be defiantly decent. Be the type of people that no matter how many people stand by your convictions, you're willing to spread those convictions. Some of you are so afraid to be on your own in anything, and I get it. Society has literally molded us mentally to be like that. That's why I love the fact that I've been labeled a sociopath now, because I always wondered, why is it that Tin just doesn't care what other people think about her? And some people label it bad, and I know that there are some sociopaths that are bad, so I'm not going to make light of my diagnosis in that aspect either. But I've always taken it to where it's like, I can't afford to worry about people not in my immediate vicinity. And if I lose a friendship, it wasn't meant to be. I don't hold on to things that don't bring actual permanence to my life. And I think that there are too many of you that would benefit from this to a certain extent of understanding that you'll be okay by yourself for a bit. It might feel like it sucks, but being able to stand on your own 2 feet mentally can prepare you for when you have to push back against societal fuckery. Because if you can't do it on your own, having a group isn't going to be better, because what happens when that group says or does something that you don't like or understand? You're just going to go with it because the whole group says so? If the group tells you that we're going to all jump off the building and protest, some of us may die, but we'll have bodies for you to land on, are you going to do that? Like, I need people to start realizing that you're real selective in your individualism. But you're just so afraid to be alone in your path on being decent people because you're not on the path of decency to actually be a better person yet. When you are, trust me, there is not going to, even my crazy ass couldn't say anything to you if you're on the right path. But some of you know you're not, and you just want a head pat and a cookie for bare minimum decency, and you're wasting a lot of our time. And right now, even though I'm writing about time being infinite in fantasy work, we're not there yet. Time is not infinite for us. And I am not going to let you waste the short amount of time I may have walking upon this earth as 10 with your half-assery when it comes to anti-racism, anti-bigotry, anti-sexism, anti-homophobia. If you are not at this level, you cannot sit with us anymore. I know it feels harsh, and I know for some people it seems like I'm being unfair, but these last few years have been rough, even rougher than they should be. And they're not new to those of us who are Black in America. Our grandparents had these stories, our parents had these stories, and their parents had that story. And the parents before them had horror stories. We know what it's like, but we want for our kids to not know what it's like, to be able to take for granted that their skin tone won't be singled out, to be able to live as sworn citizens of their nation, to be able to travel abroad and not feel criminalized, dehumanized, and subjected to other people's unfair biases. And if we are going to get that way collectively, those of you who want to really loudly tout allyism, you've got to work on yourselves. All I want to do is see you turn into a giant woman. Thank you for the resub. Ooh, 16 months. Is someone who gets to see a giant woman. Thank you so much, Beans. I get fired up about this topic a lot because there are so many people who reach out, and I get it. You see somebody online that's really passionate and talks about these issues, you think that we are an open door to unpack your trauma and life and everything. And I tell them all the time, I talk to a therapist, maybe you should too. I know I come across as blunt with this, but it is so tiring trying to be there for people who aren't being genuine in what they want out of this conversation or situation. And I've gotten to the point where I just don't have it in me anymore to handhold or coddle people. I would love it if I could get back to the 10 that was 10 years ago, that had more hope for humanity. All my hope has been poured into science fiction now. Because at least in my fantasy brain, I can see a world where people stop these ridiculous leans towards, I need to hate. I got a moral obligation to not like somebody that doesn't look or act like me. Until we get away from that corruption, that soul corruption, I just don't have it in me to be that 10. All I can do is be blunt and tell you that if you are not on my level of anti-racism and anti-hate, I don't want to deal with you right now. I don't have the energy to deal with you. There's too much going on in my life. Good stuff going on. Sometimes not so good stuff. I mentioned it on Spoutable. I'm going to wrap it up in a few moments. But we were excited last week because the Indiegogo campaign we were running hit its threshold, or so we thought. And I got an email last week, as right a few days after, that they were investigating it. Standard. That's a big amount of money. So, of course, I was fine with that. Come to find out that the person who already had donated for a book, so I was already grateful to them, initiated a chargeback. Now, it could have been a mistake. It's still being investigated. That's why I haven't been heavily spamming any of my social media for the Indiegogo, because I would feel bad still raising money if it was just a mistake and it wasn't. But they've been pretty clear that it looks like this person made the initial donation and charged it back. I don't even know what to say to something like that. It's heartbreaking, yes. It's not surprising. I've been on the internet for over 20 years now. I've seen some things. I just don't understand why people would feel the need to do something like that. I'm an independent writer, and I will be all right because I'm determined to get the next books finished too. I just think that if you're going to play with people's emotion with your kindness, don't waste their time. That's all I'm going to say to that. I'm going to wait and see what the decision finally comes down with it before I make any official statement on it. But right now, it is looking like the campaign is held up. I don't know if it's going to go through. I don't know if they're going to refund it. I don't understand why anybody would make such a donation and initiate a chargeback. All I know is that you've put us in unnecessary limbo, but it is not going to stop us. The book is already out there, it's already written. This was just to help get circulation and promotion done. And we will keep going because I have a very supportive family, very supportive friends who are my family, basically, and we are going to keep pushing. I have way too many ideas to let this set me back. But I did want to let people know because I was going around happy. I cried. I was like, I didn't have to push this anymore. I put the picture of the 5K up. I was so happy. And then it got snatched away. But that is the reality. And I realized I can't let this stop me. Setbacks happen, but I've got a path and a forward goal to get to, and that is what I'm going to do. It really is, but it's just like I don't know if they're going to let me keep the donation. Anything else we raised, which I believe was $305, that's already guaranteed. All I have to do is get the signed books to the people who pledged for those. But as far as I know, if the chargeback is honored by their credit card company, I'm out. And there's nothing I can do about it. And it's really sad, but it doesn't shock me because people play around all the time online. And I really hope it was worth it. I don't understand why this person would do that. They don't seem like they were being malicious, but I really think that there are a lot of people that try to play these games online and don't think that digital tracing and stuff like that won't get back. These sites are used to people playing these kind of fraud games, and it only hurts independent creators like myself. So if that wasn't your intent, because I reached out to the person and didn't get anything back, please reach out to Indiegogo at least. You don't even have to reach out to me personally. But if you need to clear this up, please do. Because we're just waiting to figure what's going on out. And apparently, Indiegogo believes that you initiated a chargeback. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up, y'all. It is after 8 o'clock. Really want to get my dinner started. I really hope that you have a good weekend. We may be back on Sunday. The group got together last week, but a few of our members were still out of state, so we didn't run a D&D game. But we're thinking Sunday, the gang will be back. Our monk is ready to go. So I'm excited about that, but I make no promises yet because it all depends. We will be packing tomorrow too because, like I said, one of the good news is we'll be able to move in our house by November. So stuff is looking up. these little setbacks might get me momentarily upset, but it is not going to stop the good in my life. I'm gonna protect my hope, and I'm gonna keep moving towards the future. But I am gonna get ready to wrap this up, go have some dinner. Welcome to the chat, Fluffy. And thank you so much for all the love. You, Respect, Beans, so many others that I know sit and lurk. Honey, too, who's sitting there like, I wish you would wrap this up so she can get my dinner going. No, he really does help out a lot. And he was gonna go and make sure dinner was taken care of, but I had some stuff planned, so I'm excited to get it made because I've been waiting all week to try to get this chicken done. But honestly, y'all, I really hope that you have a good weekend. If I don't see you this weekend, and go ahead and fire it off, honey. If I do not see you this weekend, please have a good one. Salad and salmon sound really good. We are doing chicken, and I believe I have some spinach and fried rice that I want to slam down on as well. He really loves this song. There we go. Thank you all for sitting in. You have a lovely weekend, and I will definitely see you next week.